Uh,
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Female Male Perspective with me, Tina Valiant, and my co-host, Eddie Cunningham. Hi, Eddie.
Aloha. How's it going out there?
How are you?
Good. Good. Fighting the allergies here in Arizona, but doing pretty good.
Oh yeah, they're killing me. Those yellow flowers on all the trees are just killing
Yeah,
me.
Palo Verdes are blooming like crazy right now. It's beautiful, but man, it eats me alive.
It's not good on my truck either.
No.
All that little yellow like dust on my truck, it's not good.
Or my motorcycle, but I usually keep that in the garage anyway. So
Yeah. So, all right. Well, today we are actually going to start our series on dating. And this is a topic that many people have requested from us. And I think it's going to be an interesting topic because we have the male perspective and we have the female perspective. And sometimes males and females don't quite look at it the same way. So we'll see what we uncover.
this is actually something I've really been looking forward to. It's I'll be real, man. It's and I'm sure every one of our listeners can agree to this. It is not often the most enjoyable experience to be out there trying to date, whether it's finding someone, whether it's actually dating them, whether it's getting to know the real them, whether it's looking to red flags, whether it's whatever. It's sometimes become tiring. And I'm going to be real about where I'm at right now in my life. I just got out of a relationship that I was in really since last August. And I actually did it a couple months ago, but I'll be real, man. I just don't feel like I'm in a place to date. I've got some really good people in my life that I'm friends with, but I just don't feel like pursuing anything. And I had to kind of come to a point where that was okay. You know, a lot of us give ourselves a lot of pressure that we have to date. Like, well, I'm single, I don't have anyone in my life, so that means I have to be out dating, right? Because the whole point is to have someone in their life. And I truly believe that until you're really comfortable alone, being alone, you're not ready for someone else. And so this is gonna be a 3-part series. This is partly what you and I have put together based off of a conference I attended. I actually spoke at a conference for singles about 2 years ago in Illinois. And I was asked to come and speak on recognizing the blocks in our belief systems that stand in the way of growth and the 4 agreements. And I was teaching 2 of those classes there. But about 3 weeks before the conference, the people that were putting it on reached out to me and said, "Hey, you're the only speaker that's actually single. Like, would you mind doing a class on how to date?" And I was like, "Wow, let me." Huh?
What a compliment. You're the only speaker that's single. Can you talk on this subject?
Yeah, and you're a resident expert because you're single. And I was like, okay, I'll
Sorry, I had to interrupt for a minute because like I don't know how I would take that. I'd be like, wow, I really am the black sheep. That would make me feel like I needed to find somebody even more.
Yeah, no, I really was. And I'll tell you what, man, being the only single speaker at an event with thousands of singles was really an experience for me. Like it was odd. And I could probably get into that on another episode, but it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. Huge eye-opening experience for me, especially being an extrovert, introvert kind of person. I do both. But anyway, so they asked me to put together a class on dating. And I really said, I didn't commit at first. I said, let me think about it. If I think I could put something fun together, I'll do it. And I just kind of put it in my head and planted the seed to see where it would grow. And it kind of grew into what it is. So these next few podcasts are going to be fun. This is going to be a 3-part series. And we're going to be talking about dating and all the different facets of it. From internally and preparing yourself for it to actually how to go out and search for a partner effectively and what to do when you finally catch them. We're going to delve into how to prepare yourself to be ready for the ups and downs of dating, how to be healthy in dating, and the different kinds of options that are out there for actually meeting people. Most importantly, we're going to talk about how to take it from dating to the next level in a healthy way. So when you finally meet the one you've been looking for, you do it right. Now I call this the Fat Polar Bear class, or the Fat Polar Bear experience, how to break the ice and date healthy in the social media age. This story is kind of funny, and I got to give credit to my son Joe. He was single at the time too. He's actually married now and giving me his first grandbaby contribution to my life. Excited about that. Yeah, very young grandpa. I like being a young grandpa, or papos. So after they had reached out to me and asked me to do this, I was sitting on the couch at my house. My son had just gotten off his mission. He was living with me. And there was an app called Mutual. And what that is it's an app that it's a dating app. And in order to actually message someone, you both have to have swiped up on each other. Up is yes, down is no. And so we were kind of goofing off. We had the TV on and we're goofing off. And I'm like, hey, what do you think of her? And he's like, oh, she's cute. See if she has a single daughter, and the same thing. He's like, hey, what do you think of her? I was like, whatever. Does she have a single mom? See if you can find out for me. And we were just having fun. And then out of the corner of my eye, I catch him over there and he's going. I turn and I go, Joey, what are you doing? And he goes, I give up. I'm just going to mutual them all. And so, I'm going to choose them all. He goes, because then I'll know who actually chooses me back. Because it doesn't tell you unless you both have swiped up on each other. That way there's no or anything like that. And so he just starts going crazy, looking around, kind of grinning at me. And then he gets to the end and of the parameters that he had set. And I go, you're nuts. And then all of a sudden his phone goes ding, 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 ding. And it's telling him, you've matched with. And I'm like, oh, crap. And so then, I'm still messing around. And then I see him over there doing this, typing really fast. And I go, what are you doing? And he goes, I'm typing fat polar bear. And I go, what? He goes, yeah, I'm typing fat polar bear. I go, like, you're sending them a picture of a fat polar bear? He goes, no, I'm typing the words fat polar bear. And I go, why? And he goes, fat polar bears help you break the ice. And I was like, okay, that's dumb. Like, does that work? And he goes, watch. And sure enough, a few minutes after, and that's all he was doing was typing. He literally was only typing those two words, fat polar bear, fat polar bear, fat polar bear, or three words, over and over and over and over and over again to every single one of them that he had matched with. And after about 5 minutes, he started getting replies. Ding, 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 ding. Almost every single girl that he had sent that to replied to him. And I went, my God, my son's a genius. So one of the hard parts, especially about online dating for men, now, and I'll speak from my personal experience here. So I had a friend of mine that lived in the condo complex that I lived in years ago. She had gotten me on a dating app called Plenty of Fish. And I know a lot of people are out there going, oh, Plenty of Fish, it's a hookup site. I agree with you, it's a hookup site. I was not on it very long. I did not enjoy that experience. But I would get 3 or 4 new messages a day from new women that were reaching out. That was overwhelming to me because that adds up. Like, how do you keep track of that many? But women, my female friends were telling me they were getting like 30 to 40 new messages a day. That's insanity on two sides. It's insane for the woman to be able to try and filter through all those. And it's insane for the man, especially a good guy, to break through all the other, just be real, dick pics and hey, beautiful, and all the other monotonous crap that boys send out to girls.
Yeah, let's stop for a minute. I have no understanding why men send dick pics. Do you know what we do with them, men?
Show them to your friends and laugh about them.
We do. We all like sit there and we save them specifically for the girls' night out. And then we're all like, okay, check this out. Like, look at all these pictures.
Zoom in so we can actually see this one. Oh my gosh.
We're like, is that even real? Why would he be standing over a toilet? Like, what? My favorite ones were the ones where they were like stroking themselves in a video. I'm like, really? How many people do you send that to?
Okay.
I mean, that's a little explicit, but I had to say it because, I mean, from a female perspective, it's completely ridiculous.
I have yet to meet a single woman, and I'm sure there might be one or two out there that actually went, oh, I really love it when that happens. I've yet to have that. Now, women are guilty of that too. I have received some pretty graphic, unsolicited pics and videos, especially more that I've gotten out there, the more I've been out there speaking and stuff. I don't get it. I don't understand it. It's a huge turnoff for a man. Boys like it. And I don't care if they're 35, 40, or 50-year old, they're still boys if that's what they're into. But men absolutely don't. So fat polar bear. So I realized my son was a genius. He had found a way to stand out amongst all the messages that these girls were getting. Now that he had opened the door or broke the ice with the fat polar bear, he was able to start communicating with them, really going through their profiles, seeing which ones were worth putting the time into and whatnot. And I thought that was absolute genius. So in his honor, Joey Cunningham, I named it the Fat Polar Bear Experience, the Fat Polar Bear class.
Hold on. You told me once that like some women would respond to him and be like, "Are you calling me fat?"
Yes. Yeah. So all the messages were different. So there was like a question mark, or it was, "Are you calling me fat?" Or it was haha or LOL, because some of them got it. But the point was, it opened the door. And no matter what the response was, he was still able to actually go, okay, hey, no, absolutely not. Fat polar bear helps me break the ice, which usually got a chuckle out of them. Some never responded back after he explained it, but hey, that's okay. He's filtering through. If they don't like a goofy side to a guy, then definitely not the girl for him.
Right.
So.
Well, it clearly worked. He just got married, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, he got married. I want to say beginning of January. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm really happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she's an amazing person. She has the same nerd qualities that he does, that fits right into the family. You know, totally digs Star Wars, loves Lord of the Rings, so she fit right in. Gives him crap and calls him on it. Love it. So he's done a good job. So maybe I'll have him teach me how to date and find a wife. But in the meantime, I'll talk about being single and how to actually date effectively to be able to move on to what we want to. So that's why it's called the Fat Polar Bear Experience. I had a lot of fun out at the singles conference when I taught all the classes that I taught. But it was interesting because a lot of the stuff that I talked about, people were surprised. So I ended up with over 250 people came to the class, which we were supposed to only have about 30 show up, but we had 250. We ended up having to go into the auditorium in order to fit everybody.
Wow.
And what they weren't expecting, but part of it, and this is the first part that we're going to talk about, this is what we're going to go through today, is I stressed the importance of being ready to date before you start dating. And being honest with yourself about it. I get that you're feeling lonely. I get that you have moments where you just wish someone would wrap their friggin' arms around you, kiss you on the forehead, tell you it's going to be okay. Give you, for me, scalp rubs are like magic to me. And you know,
you're in trouble now that you put that out there.
Uh-oh. Random people coming up to me in restaurants.
Random women are going to be coming up to me. Eddie.
But yeah, I get those moments. I have those moments too. And those are the moments where you're actually supposed to delve inside of yourself and say, okay, why is this coming up? What am I trying to feed? Is it something healthy or is it something unhealthy? And really be honest with yourself. The more you can learn to do that, the healthier relationships you're going to have. The unhealthy people will start leaving your life and you will just start attracting healthier and healthier. And you'll just have better and better relationships with everyone in your life. So to me, let's talk about first and foremost, what is the purpose of dating? So I firmly believe that dating is to find someone to work towards a marriage with. And I want to say that again. It's to find someone to work towards a marriage with. You can replace marriage with whatever you want, whether that's a civil union or partnership or whatever you want to put with, but it's about having a truly connected, dedicated, committed relationship, not just for a while, but literally to build a life and keep a life going with. If you're not looking for a long-term relationship, you are not actually dating. You're just killing time and filling voids. Okay. And just be honest with yourself about it. I'm not saying that's right, that's wrong. There's nothing wrong with being in that phase, but just be honest with yourself about it. Because if you're going to be out there trying to date when you really don't need it or want it, you're just going to hurt people.
Yeah.
You're not going to be honest with yourself. You're not going to be honest with them. you're going to end up building expectations that you're never going to meet, or you're going to be extremely uncomfortable meeting. And it's just not worth it. Be honest with yourself, be honest with people. You'll fill your circle with people that feel and think the way you think. So just be honest about it.
You know, and I think it's interesting too, because in the past, like if I just wanted friends, like friendships, not even friends with benefits or anything, like just like friendships, people to hang out with, people to go to the movies with, whatever. And I would be completely honest about it. Like I just want friends in my life right now. I'm not in a place where I can be in a relationship. I'm not looking for a relationship. And it's amazing how many people were like, in their head, it became a challenge, especially for men. When a woman says it, it becomes a challenge for a man. And he's like, ooh, I'm going to change my mind.
It's the same with women back to us men when we say that. I'd say the same way, for sure.
And it was frustrating because I'm like, I told you not to fall in love with me. Like I was totally serious about that. You know, like I wasn't doing a takeaway on you, trying to make you want what you can't have. I really meant I am not in a place for a long-term committed relationship. I just want friends in my life right now. That's what I can give is friendship. And a lot of my friendships were killed because of it. Because they had in their brain that no, she's going to change her mind. She's going to want me like that. And we're going to be a couple.
Yeah. And those are the people that aren't being honest with themselves and then turning around and not being honest with you as well. And we actually talked about this in one of our last episodes, which was you're responsible for your side of the relationship, and you're part of being clear and concise about where you're at, what you want, what you're really looking for, and what you're willing to give and receive. You're only responsible for that. The fantasy that they build in their head is not your responsibility. And again, that's not free reign to go out and just be a jerk, but it just shows you that you are responsible for it. You don't need to feel bad. So if you tell someone, hey, look, I'm just not in that place right now. I don't want to date. I really just want to, I would love some friendship and whatnot, but I don't want pressure. I don't want to feel like I have to call you every day. I don't want, if I feel like I want to take off for a week vacation and be by myself, I want to be able to do that. If I want to go hang out with someone else, I want to be able to go do that. I'm not looking for anything right now. You clarify that, and then they feel hurt months down the road because you do one of those things, like take a vacation by yourself without them or whatever, then that's on them.
Right.
Yes, you're still responsible for the things you do. If you start doing relationship stuff, you got to either keep clarifying or you got to let it go to the next level.
Right.
But again, this is almost entirely about communication.
Mm-hmm.
And the point is to eventually get to a place where you want to work towards that long-term relationship. And for me, that's marriage. I really want that in my life again, but healthy this time. So I want to talk about one of the best pieces of advice I had ever received about marriage. And this also applies to dating because it's really just about relationships. So when I did music years ago back in Nashville, we would have these things where we would do co-writes with each other. So, you get a group of songwriters together, they'd bring their books of the songs they're working on, and you would talk about, okay, this is the hook I have, where I've got a hook, I've got a chorus, I've got a verse, but I can't come up with, another verse, blah, blah, blah. But here's the story behind it, and you would share it. So there was a few of us that were together. And one of them was a platinum best-selling artist who had been a songwriter for years before in his own right, had his own publishing company, did really well for himself, but had an amazing voice. So Warner Brothers had signed him to a record deal. And his record went like double platinum, like went crazy. And he wasn't expecting that. But he spent the next 10 months of the next year touring to promote the album for the record company. And his marriage of about 13 years at that time, he had a beautiful, wonderful Christian marriage with a woman that was in the military, absolutely head over heels in love with each other. And he said after 13 years, just in that short span of time, that 10 months, he felt like he was coming home to a stranger. So another mutual friend of ours who was a mentor of mine when it came to songwriting, absolutely loved this guy. He was one of Elvis's best friends. His name is Billy Strange. He's written songs like A Little Less Conversation, These Boots Are Made for Walking, and he even wrote the James Bond theme, the actual but when I knew him, Billy had been married over 60 years to his wife. So my other friend, Michael, had gone to him and said, hey, I don't know what to do. How in the hell have you stayed married to the same woman for 50 years. And Billy looked at him and said, I haven't. And he goes, I've known you for 20 years. You've been married to the same woman. And he goes, no, Michael, I've had 7 wives. And he goes, what are you talking about? He goes, I've known you for all this time. It's always been the same woman. He goes, no, Michael, I've had at least 7 wives. And he goes, okay, what are you trying to tell me? And he goes, look, here's the truth. A good woman, or you can add just a good person, period, who is healthy and working to grow themselves will become an entirely new person every 5 to 7 years. They'll look completely different than they did 5 to 7 years ago. Your job as her husband is to edify her to be the best her that she wants to be. Mm-hmm. Not the woman you think she should be, not the woman, the idea of woman or wife in your head that you got from your mom, your sister, your aunt, your friend's mom, or whoever else you had as influencers in your life on what a woman and a wife should be. That's not her job. Your job is not to make her into the woman you think a woman should be, but to edify her to be the best woman that she wants to be. And if you continually explore the new woman that she's becoming, you'll always find new things to fall in love with, and you'll never stop falling in love. He goes, and if you do, you'll have a marriage that will last a lifetime. He goes, now, if you're picky enough that you end up with a partner who does the same to you and edifies you as a man to be the best man that you want to be. Again, not the version of her dad or her brother or everyone else that was an influence on what a man should be in her life and try and turn you into that, but actually edifies you to be the best man that you want to be and explores the new man that you're becoming. You guys will constantly be becoming new people, and you'll never stop falling in love, and you'll have a marriage for the eternities. And he said, I've been to the altar once, but I've had at least 7 wives. That piece of advice completely changed how I viewed marriage and how I viewed relationships. Because most relationships, and I'm just going to be honest, I'm going to guess closer to around 80% of the relationships on this planet are really more about negotiations than they are about truly building each other up in a healthy way.
Definitely.
My book of agreements, and we come together and we compare them and we go, oh yeah, I kind of see marriage this way. I kind of see marriage this way. I see a husband this way. You match a lot of my checklists. Well, I see a wife this way. You match a lot of my checklist. And then you come together, and then for the first few years, they call it the honeymoon ending, the honeymoon phase ending. You hit that point and you realize, wait a minute, there's a bunch more agreements that I didn't agree to. Well, I got a bunch more that you didn't agree to either. And then you start negotiating through them until you find a comfortable point that you all just kind of coexist together. That is what most relationships are. Mm-hmm. And that is not the healthiest way. Now, you can make it work, but you're going to end up one of those retired couples sitting there eating a TV dinner, watching Wheel of Fortune every night and going to bed at 7 o'clock and waking up at 5 to do it all over again the next day. You're not going to truly build a real life together. I'm looking for that next level. That's what I want. So when I talk about these things, I'm talking about, I want that ultimate one. I want to be able to work towards that. And I want someone to work with me on that. And I'm hoping that the more people we do that, the better the dating pool is going to get for all of us.
Yeah. Oh, and I think that too, when, in dating and then you move into a relationship with somebody, first of all, there's 2 things that are happening. Number one, everybody has their best foot forward, right? Their best face. And that can only last for so long before the real person starts coming out. And that's one thing that when I started dating this time, after being single for a little while, I really wanted to just be my authentic self right from the beginning. It was really important to me. And it was important to me that if I chose to date somebody, that they were the same, that they told me the good, the bad, the ugly right up front, so that I knew what I was dealing with and it wasn't some pretend face. The other thing too that I think is a killer of relationships is, you call them agreements, I call them expectations, where we have these expectations of how a relationship is supposed to be, but the problem is that nobody actually communicates about that.
Yep.
We all have ideas of what a relationship is supposed to look like in our mind, but how would the other person know if you never talk about it?
Yep.
Like what's acceptable and what's not to you. Some people are totally okay with their significant other going out and hanging out with the opposite sex all the time and whatever. And other people are not okay with that. But if you don't communicate about it, how is anybody supposed to know
Right.
your boundaries?
I've had, I guess the best way to put this is the number one complaint I've had about me on first dates is, wow, that got really deep real quick. And because I ask real questions. I love, one of my love languages is quality time. And I love connecting. I don't know how to be shallow. I actually get, maybe it's my ADD or whatever, but I get really bored really quick if it's just a shallow conversation. It's one of the reasons why when I attend like political events and whatnot, and we're supposed to be hobnobbing and networking, I don't do great because I can't talk surface. Like I want to talk real. I want to talk about what changes need to be made in the community. I want to talk about like deep stuff. It's the same thing with dating. Now I'm not crazy intense like that on a date, but I want to talk about. I want to talk about, what was it like growing up? What's it like to be you? What
makes you tick?
Yeah, what are your fears? What are your joys? Where's your happy place? Where do you find your zen? What makes you feel loved? And just talking about it. What's the worst thing that ever happened to you, and how did you get through it? How did you build strength over it, or did you let it destroy you?
Now that's a tough question on a first date.
Yeah, and
It is.
I agree. I agree, but again, I'm not looking for average, and again, it's not
a 4 hour, 5 hour, 6 hour date. Maybe we can dive into that at that point, right? But
yeah,
an hour or two, probably not so much.
Yeah, it's not like I dive right into that right off, because if I go out on a date, it's the first time we've met and really talked and whatnot. And we'll get into this in the second episode when I was actually talked into doing a matchmaking site. It was a professional matchmaking service that had reached out to me because they had said that several women that were using their service had asked to go on a date with me, but I wasn't in the service, so they wouldn't reach out. So they were trying to get me to sign up. Eventually, I didn't do the paid version of it, but that's yeah, I would know within about 5 minutes if I was going to just stay for dinner and leave, or if the conversation was going well and I was feeling a connection, then I dive into the deep questions. I don't just tell me what you want to do with the rest of your life and what are your beliefs in God. But I don't do surface.
What's your political views?
Yeah, it's a big one. So this part of the episode, and we're going to talk about self-mastery in you and becoming the best you that you can be, so that when you're ready, it flows right for you. Because if you are not ready to date, you shouldn't be out there dating. Just be honest with yourself. So one of the things we're going to dive into, and this is going to be kind of fun. We were playing with it earlier. There's two videos we're going to watch, and a lot of people have watched this first one. It's called the Hot Crazy Matrix. So we're going to talk about the differences between how men and women kind of view the dating pool right now. Yeah, just for you listeners, if you get offended, I have no ownership over it. Neither does Tina. It's your choice. It is kind of funny. It does poke fun a little bit, but if you ignore some of the comedy of it, there's actually some real meat to this video. And then the second video is a woman's rebuttal in response to it. It's equally as hilarious. So we're going to watch this video and then we're going to talk about it.
All right, here we go.
Hey everybody, James Yeager here with Tactical Response, and I got the terrorist mouthpiece with me. This is go introduce yourself. I'm Dana McClendon. I am the consigliere to the Camden Mafia and the terrorist mouthpiece. But what are we going to talk about? What are you going to talk about today? Today's lesson it's a little off the beaten path tactical response, but it's still something that you can use every day. This is the Hot Crazy Matrix. It's what you need to know about how to deal with women and how to analyze the situation that you may be in or want to be in. Okay, let's take a look at that right now. Okay, so this is the Universal Hot Crazy Matrix. It's everything a young man needs to know about women. I've developed this on my own over 46 years of living on the earth. So this is how it works. You have your crazy axis and your hot axis. Hot is, as usual, measured from 0 to 10. We're all familiar with that. Crazy is measured from 4 to 10 because, of course, there's no such thing as a woman who's not at least 4 crazy. So you got 4 to 10. This is your hot, crazy line right here. Very important that you keep in mind where the hot, crazy line is. As a rule, this is your no-go zone. We do not hang around and date and marry women who are not, at least in our mind, a 5. So this is your no-go zone. You don't go here. We just rule this out. Life is better this way. That's the way it is. All right. Above a 5 and to about an 8 and below the crazy line, this is your fun zone. You can hang out here and meet these girls and spend time with them. That's your fun zone. But keep in mind, when you're in the fun zone, you want to move out of the fun zone to a more permanent location. Okay. So that's the fun zone. Above a 5, hot. Below an 8, hot. And below the crazy line. This means these are most of the time not crazy. Okay. Above the danger zone, above the crazy line, we have the danger zone. This is your redheads, your strippers, anyone named Tiffany, hairdressers. This is where your car gets keyed. You get a bunny in the pot, your tires get slashed, and you wind up in jail. Now that we have some of the chart filled in, we got a couple more pieces to put in, but at this point, understand something. This is not a static environment. This is a situation where you have got to use this matrix over time to develop some reliable data. It's like a dope chart, okay? Because at any moment in time, any woman that you have previously located on this chart can vanish from that location and appear anywhere else on the chart. So what you have to do is over time, collect some data. And once you have a cluster of data points, you can begin to consider that reliable. Now, moving on, you have this zone here. This is below the crazy line, above an 8 hot, but still, about a 7 crazy. This is your date zone. You can stay in the date zone indefinitely. These are women that you introduce to your friends and your family. They're good looking and they're reasonably not crazy most of the time. Okay, so you can stay here indefinitely. Now, above an 8 hot and between about a 7 and a 5 crazy, this is your wife zone. Okay, when you meet this girl, you should consider a long-term relationship. This zone is not scaled to size. This is a representation and not an actual. This is not a pie chart showing you how many of these people are out there. This is simply a representation of what you're at. You want to be 5 to 7 crazy, above an 8 hot. That's your wife zone. Okay. Now, below a 5 crazy and above an 8 hot, this is your unicorn zone. These things don't exist. If you find a unicorn, please capture it safely, keep it alive. We'd like to study it and maybe look at how to replicate that. Okay. So I was explaining this to a guy one time, and he said, "Wait a minute. I met this girl, and she's like smoking hot. She's like at least a 9, and she's chill. She's totally cool. She's like not even a 3 crazy." I said, "You're telling me you've met a girl, she's a 9 hot, and she's like a 2 or a 3 crazy?" He said, "Yeah, man, I like her a lot." I said, "You should be careful. That's a dude. You're talking to a tranny." So you got to be careful, because down here below a 4 crazy and above an 8 hot, you're probably talking to a dude. That is the universal hot crazy mix.
All right, David, that's pretty good. Now, let me ask you, like, for the women watching, is there a male version of that? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
Would it also be?
Oh yeah, it's a little simpler.
If a dude is super hot, okay.
Yeah, it's a little simpler, but we can do it real quick. It doesn't take very long at all. For women, this is your matrix. You got your cute axis and you got your money axis. Okay. And if you have, there's only 3 sections. Women have a very large no-go zone. This is for dudes who are neither hot nor have a lot of money. You'll notice over here, this is the husband section. Once you cross a line and have sufficient amounts of money, it is no longer relevant how hot you are. And then women have a fun zone here where a dude is broke but hot. that is the cute versus rich matrix.
All right, we can stop it now.
There you go.
Go ahead and stop it.
Responsibility to be ready to date hot bitches never ends.
Here ended the lesson.
I have a lot to say.
Yeah, no, I figured we would. And actually that's why I was like, that last part was uncalled for and unneeded. But so let's have it.
First of all, on the female one, like where they were explaining what a woman is looking for, okay, nobody explained to me that they can be hot and broke and they're just in the fun. I always married those.
That's funny.
So I had to change that about myself. So that's the funny. When I was watching that part, I'm like, wait a minute, somebody should have drew that chart for me.
Well, the next video will be good. You'll like the next video, but let's talk about this. So I want to hear what are your thoughts on that? Like how I putting some of the joking aside, this is the way a lot of men actually view the dating pool. Like we actually think that this is what it's like out there.
Mm-hmm. So it's interesting. And there's some of it that I actually agree a lot with. Okay. I have an ex that I never talk about my second husband because he was a great guy and I value him as a person even today. Okay. But one of the things that he said to me when we were married is he kept telling me about all these smoking hot girls that he had dated in his life and like all this kind of stuff. And, you know, we were younger and it was kind of an immature thing for him to do, which I don't think he realized at the time. But finally one day I looked at him and I'm like, do you think I'm hot? And he's like, well, you're cute, maybe even pretty. And he's like, fine, if you want a number on a scale of 1 to 10, you're a 7. And here's my thing. Like, I know I am not like the most beautiful woman in the world or anything like that, right? But to my person, I should be a 10 in their eyes. And he said, no, you don't understand. He's like, you, like across the board with everything else, like you're a 10 in intelligence, you're a 10 in humor, you're a 10 in this, you're a 10 in this. But it looks, you're a 7. And he said it again. And I remember getting up every day for like a month and looking in the mirror and going, what does it even matter? I'm a 7, and walking away. And one of the things that I said to him was, you know, here's the problem with that. Like, I'm your person, right? Like, we're married. So what if somebody comes along that is a 10 across the board, even in hotness? I obviously can't hold a candle to that in your eyes. Like, that's a problem because to you, I should be up here and I'm not. And that scares me.
I totally understand that. And
like I almost have to try like really hard not to cry even talking about it.
I can see how that would crush you.
Yeah. I didn't ask for a number.
And we don't even know. I mean, I don't even know what his full intention behind that was. I don't know if that meant, you know, because here's the thing was that a requirement of his? Was that you be a 10 hot as well? Did in your mind, you suddenly thought, well, he must be settling then.
Right.
But in his mind, he might not have even been thinking that he was settling. He might still have thought he still won the lottery with you. You know, this idea of perfection is sold by the media, by advertising, by Walt Disney, by Nickelodeon, by all these things that influence us as children as to what beauty is, what we should be looking for, what we shouldn't be looking for. And this is one of the things that this episode is so important to talk about, is delving into your belief system on what you want in a mate. Because, you know, we talk about it all the time, looks fade.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we get older. I was talking with a good friend yesterday about this. You know, somewhere along the lines, we all were told that age takes away from beauty, that beauty fades with age. And I absolutely don't believe that. It's a different kind of beauty. You know, to me, so many women are so sensitive about stretch marks, and for a man, that's like attract this part of life, like the scars on your body, the crow's feet from smiling so much. Those things are beautiful to me, and those come with age and with time, and real men actually feel that way.
It's funny, in my family, the women in my family get better with age. I look way better now than I did 20 years ago. And the same with my aunts. I mean, they look amazing. My mom looks amazing. And it's so funny because it's like we had our awkward stage in life in like our 20 to 35, right? And then at 35, we started kind of blossoming. And I think, and I've really been thinking about this a lot. And I think it's because we start, in my family, we start owning who we are in our mid 30s to early 40s. And then we start like walking in more confidence. And I think that brings more beauty to us because we own who we are.
Well, I was going to bring that up when you were saying that. When you say that you become more attractive with age, that is your experience with yourself when you look in the mirror, when you view your life. However, if I were to line 100 men up and have them go through your photos, you know, one of each year and whatnot, and pick out which one they thought, you know, you were the most beautiful in. Some would pick the later years, some would pick the earlier years, some would pick the in years, some would pick the other people aren't experiencing you the way you are experiencing yourself, and especially not the way you're assuming they're experiencing you. That is a projection of how you see yourself. You think everyone else is seeing you that way as well. When I guarantee you could find people that were in your life back when you thought you were in your awkward stage that thought you were perfect back then.
I don't know.
Well,
because,
I know.
And you know why? Because I wasn't okay with me. So
Right.
how could other people be okay with me?
And again, that comes to, and that's something that we all need to conquer. And if we're going to have the ultimate of the healthy kinds of relationships, and that's our own projection of ourselves into our assumption of what other people are thinking of us. You know, just because you see yourself that way doesn't mean other people see you that way. And you have to be open to them being honest and real with you about how they see you. You know, and to them, it might not even be a bad thing, whatever. Even if they call you a 7, that might still be like winning the lottery for them.
Right.
So.
Yeah, definitely. But no, I hear men all the time saying, just based on the video that we just watched, I hear men all the time saying, okay, she's this level of crazy, or she's that level of crazy, and whatever. And I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about it while I'm watching it, because I had never seen that before. So I'm sitting here and I'm watching it and I'm like, yeah, I'm definitely a 4-level crazy. Yeah, like push me in the wrong direction, some crazy might come out.
So that was one of the funniest parts for me, was that, well, it's a 4 to 10 scale because all women are at least a 4 crazy.
Well, and then I'm sitting there and I'm thinking about it. And most of the men that have been in my life, I kid you not, think it's so super sexy when I'm pissed off. They're like, oh my gosh, like that's hot. And I'm like, you don't want me to go to the next level because it's not hot.
There could be some Freudian discussion on those guys. That's like, I don't know if those are mommy issues or just what kind of issues those are.
I guess they like it when my eyes turn red. I don't know. The demon comes out. It takes a lot to get me there, but when I'm there, hit the deck.
Yeah, I just get quiet. So some of the other things in there, you know, okay, the at least 4 crazy. I think women do have a little bit of the crazy in them, but guys do too. I don't know anyone that would ever be a 0 crazy. I think we all have that little bit that creeps inside of us. One of the things I want to point out, and touched on it just briefly though, is this 0 to 10 hot scale. Okay, every one of us has a perception of what hot is. So I would love to help create a society where people completely let go of this supermodel version, this Disney version of what beauty is, and start accepting what they find beautiful as beautiful. You know, you don't walk into a forest and look at these trees and start picking them apart and going, oh, that one was cracked during a storm. Oh, that one was struck by lightning. It's not, it's ugly. You're not going to walk through, you're going to look at all the trees and go, they're absolutely beautiful. There was a movie called The Last Samurai. Not a huge Tom Cruise fan, but it's one of my favorite movies. And the head samurai says to Tom Cruise during one of their interactions, he says, you know, a man can spend his entire life finding the most perfect cherry blossom, and it would not be a wasted life. And they had these beautiful cherry trees with these blossoms and whatnot. And then right at the end of the movie, he has this revelation where he looks at all these cherry blossoms and he says, they are all beautiful. You know, they are all perfect. That's the true way we were born. That's the true way we should see life. And that's the most freeing way to see it. When we start seeing the beautiful intricacies and the way life has affected you physically and mentally, and emotionally, and spiritually, and the scars that we have as beautiful pieces of us, we'll start seeing them as beautiful pieces in others as well. That's when you're going to finally have depth to your relationships. And just because you don't see yourself as a 10, and this is to everyone out there that's listening, does not mean someone else does. And it doesn't mean you can't believe them. You know, I've had so many people that I thought was absolutely stunning that thought they were the ugliest person on the planet, all because of how they were raised and the way they were treated and the trauma they had been through. They had just come to accept it. So even when, you know, you see people with eating disorders that are 110 pounds thinking that they're fat, just because you see yourself one way does not mean other people see you that way as well. I don't know where else to go with that besides just I wish we could all let go of those things, you know. And I still sometimes have that issue, you know. I was called Baby Beluga when I was a kid. I was a cartoon whale because I was a little heavy set as I got up into high school, and it bugged me for a long time. But I've let go of that. I still have a rough time when I have women go, "Oh my God, I think you're handsome," and I'm like, I don't have hair.
I think that's hot. Whatever.
Seriously. I got a
Most women think that the baldness is a hot thing. And men don't realize that. But women are like, yeah, like, let me just play with it. Like, I just want to touch it.
Yeah, I had luscious locks when I was younger. I mean, I had hair that was all one length that I would keep back in a ponytail under my cowboy hat. No, I'm being real. I was a skater cowboy.
Really?
Yeah, I had, my bangs were down to here, and it was all usually kept feathered back or in a ponytail or under my cowboy hat.
Wow.
Yeah, I had
Jay used to have dread, like he not dreads, but like braids, like all the way down to like the middle of his back. So, and I just can't even imagine that now. So can't even imagine. Now for me, so, and I understand what you're saying too, because like body image is a huge thing, right? And if you have been a bigger person in the past, like it's very difficult to see yourself as a smaller person after that. A lot of people don't know that I used to be a very large person, very large. And my dad had 2 heart attacks by the time he was 49. And I decided, my kids were little at the time, and I decided I wanted to live. And I knew that I was going to have to work on myself. And there's a lot of health challenges with that, like that we've talked about in other episodes and things like that with Crohn's and other things. So I can't eat what people would normally eat in order to be a smaller person. And that's always really bothered me because I love salads. I just can't eat them. I love raw vegetables. I just can't eat them. But it's interesting because still, like, I'm a normal sized person, right? From what people tell me, I'm a normal sized person. But when I look at myself, I still see that way bigger person.
Yeah.
20 years later, I still see that in my mind. And there used to be this amazing show out there called, I can't remember if it was like How to Look Great Naked or something like that. And it was like this great host who like would work with these girls that had really bad body image. And he used to do this exercise where all of these women would be lined up from like small to really large. And this person would have to go put themselves in between the people that she thought she was in the middle of their sizes. And so she'd be standing there and he'd go over and he'd take her based on measurements and he'd like move her 4 people down from where she thought she was. Because even with measurements, and it's because of how we see ourselves. So I know we kind of went off onto a bunny trail here, but how we feel about ourselves really does play into dating and feeling sexy and sassy. And I always tell women all the time, you don't have to dress sexy. Sexy is an attitude. You either own it or you don't.
Yeah, and if you're not self-empowered enough to see yourself for who you really are, it doesn't matter how someone else sees you. And that's the most important thing here. So if you have horrible body images, horrible image of yourself and how you see yourself, and you're not taking ownership over that, no matter how loving a person is, no matter how much they think you're the most beautiful person on the planet, you won't believe it, you'll question it, and you will sabotage it nonstop. So one of the biggest things you got to work on is how you see yourself, learning to love yourself completely and unconditionally, because you want that from someone else. You won't accept it until you're giving it to yourself. You won't accept it completely.
Yep.
So let's try this second one. So this is a woman's kind of response to the last one, and it's pretty funny.
All right, here we go.
This is your hot emotional unavailability matrix. Everything a woman needs to know about men. This takes some people 46 years to develop. We banged this out in 5 minutes. This is how it is. It just is. This is your emotional unavailability access. This is your hot access. Hot, as usual, is measured from 0 to 10. We all know that. Emotional unavailability is measured from 4 to 10 because we know there's no such thing as a man who's not at least a stunted 4 in emotional growth. The part below, of course, is reserved for our gay BFFs. Love you guys. This is your emotional unavailability hotline. It is very important you keep in mind where this line is at all times. As a rule, this is your no-go zone, okay? We do not date or hang out or marry men who are, at least in our minds, a 5. There is a supplemental graph for girls who will date, marry a guy who's a 5 and under for his money. So we just rule this out like it's better that way. That is just the way it is. It's just the way it is. Above a 5 until about an 8, that is your fun zone. Okay, we can hang around these guys, meet these guys, spend protected time with these guys. This is your I'm working on an app guy, commercial actors, and any minor league athletes. Above the emotional unavailability line, this is your danger zone. Okay, this is guys with 2 first names. Any guy named Brad or Chad, any ads, online porn addicts, any guy that reads Elite Daily. This guy will call your ex, drunk dial you 20 times, and carve your name into his chest, a la Mark Wahlberg, forever. And they'll wind up pregnant, also, forever.
Forever.
Danger zone. Below the emotional unavailability line and above an 8 hot, and still about a 7 in emotional complexity, this is your date zone. Ladies, we can hang out with these guys, introduce them to our friends, not our dads, but distant cousins. These guys, they're pretty good looking and reasonably evolved. Date zone. Above an 8 hot, and in between about a 7 and a 5, that is your husband zone, okay? Now, when you find this guy, you lock him down, okay? This is not done to size. This is not a pie chart. This is a representation. There's only actually about 5 guys that qualify. Ryan Gosling. This man does not exist. If you find him, please capture him. Every straight woman on the planet is looking for him. We'd like to study him and maybe look at how to replicate him to Prince Charming Zone. Now, I was explaining this to my girlfriend, and she said, wait a minute. I met this guy who is smoking hot, at least in 9. He went down on me for an hour. We stayed up all night talking. He cried, at least a 3 in emotional unavailability. And I said, girl, have you seen Boys Don't Cry? That was a woman. Lesbian. So, okay. Now, ladies, I want you to use this information and more than conquer. Lots of love, Kelsey. At least a 7 crazy.
That was cute. So she even owned her. My name's Kelsey. I'm at least a 7 crazy. That was good.
Yes, I liked it. I'm trying to think of my number of crazy. What's your number for emotional unavailability?
Well, here's the funny thing about that.
You're a unicorn.
It wanes. Well, no, I'll be honest. Right now, having gotten out of a relationship that was kind of painful ending, my emotional availability right now is not very high.
Mm-hmm.
Like they both kind of said, it's a dope chart, so you have to kind of get a cluster of information and whatnot. But as far as what I'm capable of all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that comes with, and again, like I said, right now I'm just in that place where I'm not looking to date. I'm not looking to build relationships because I know I'm just not ready. I'm just not available, and it's unfair to build that when I'm in that place. My goal is to get there. And the only way I can get there is to work on me. It's to work on healing. It's to work on growing. It's to work on why I made decisions that I made that led me to where I was at, and how to move forward in a healthier way. So I realistically, when I'm at my A game, yeah, I'm down there around I guess a 4. I don't know, when I'm in, especially if I decide to get married, when I'm in a marriage, it's wide open. I'm emotionally completely available.
So you're a Prince Charming.
I wouldn't say that. I don't have the hair.
What is up with this whole hair thing? What did I just tell you?
I don't own a horse. I don't have any armor.
You have been the White Knight in the past.
Yeah. Yes, I have.
Yes, we'll be talking about that in a future episode, the White Knight syndrome of needing to save the damsel in distress, pretty much.
So, yep, actually, I'm excited about that episode too. That's coming up here in a little bit. That's going to be a fun one to talk about. I'm going to be really open and raw about that. So I want to ask you about this video. How close is that to how women view the dating pool of men?
It's pretty accurate. However, I will say this, the first chart that with the man that did the chart, I'm sad to say that I do have friends and possibly some family members out there as women that definitely go for the money chart versus the handsome chart. Okay. And that's how they gauge it, and money wins. And that is something that I personally have never understood. Maybe I was wrong in that. Maybe I should have went a different direction, but I have never been that person where I put money on that chart. Now, of course, I have added things like you must be able to drive your own vehicle and have a driver's license and own a car. Like those are big things. But and I say that because my ex did not have any of that. So I learned that is not something I will allow into my life in the future. But I know.
In high school?
No. It was a boy. Okay, Ed, he was a boy. Even when I talk about him to people that know him, I'm like, so how's the boy? Not a man, he's a boy. So, but I never judged it based on how much money a person made or anything like that. But I do have friends that chart is pretty darn accurate. I got to be honest. Okay. Yeah, and I'm sad to say that because people should be looked at as people.
Yep.
right? And I do have guy friends that, they're only looking for the 10. They like some crazy because it's fun. It keeps their life interesting, but they're never marrying those girls. As a matter of fact, they're still single in the 25 years I've known them.
Yeah, I don't do well with crazy. I don't.
Yeah, I don't either.
Peace and zen in my life.
Right. And I can tell you this too, based on the dating world, men can be crazy. I've had some crazy men in my life that definitely I was not bored. But in the end, I was like, I cannot deal with this drama anymore in my life. I just can't. You bring too much of it with you.
Yeah.
So.
Did they ever carve your name in their chest? Forever?
No, they tried to brand me. They wanted to brand me. Yeah. Okay. Jay is the only one that hasn't actually wanted to brand me with his name. So.
Oh, like you talking a tattoo? Like.
Oh yeah, like I need my name on your behind or whatever, so that anytime, nobody's ever.
If you ever did Jay, you could always put blue in front of it, have like a bird tattooed over it, and just saying. There's like my cousin Stephanie. I love it. Her and her husband, he's Steven, spelled with a PH as well. And I always tease them because they have their names on their wrists, and so his says Stephanie and hers says Stefan. And so I'm like, dude, if you guys ever split up, all she has to do is put an IE on the end of it and she's good to go. You're kind of stuck with that. But they're actually an amazing couple. I've seen them go through a lot. They've been a real example to me on a lot of things.
Yeah.
All right. So self-mastery and dating. I want to move forward with this one. Okay. We talked a little bit earlier about what they have to do with each other. So the healthier you are internally, the more you learn to unconditionally love yourself and view yourself, the easier it's going to be for you to see the unhealthiness in others that you don't want in your life. And the more you're going to attract people that are on the same journey with you and at the same level as you. This is a really important concept when you're delving into yourself. You are a mirror of what we attract. Okay. You're a mirror of everything that you attract. Now, when you look into a mirror, you think you're seeing an exact replica of you, but you're not. You're seeing the complete opposite of you. So for instance, when you look back on the relationships that you've had that didn't work out, you have to, no matter how abusive they were to you, no matter how much they victimized you, you still have to take responsibility for who you were in that relationship and why you allowed yourself to get into it. If you never do it, if you always live in victimhood and it's always their fault that you were hurt and you're never going to heal and you're never going to move forward, and worse, you're always going to feel comfortable in that. And we're going to talk about that here in a minute. But when you reflect back on your relationships, if they all kind of had the same vibe and had the same kind of ending, you were the common denominator in it, and you need to look at that. So some of the examples that we have of things being mirror is enablers are attracted to feeders. If you're a enabler, you are going to be attracted to people that want an enabler, people that are going to feed off of you. So then you got to work on and fix, why am I an enabler? Where did that come from? Where in my childhood or early adulthood did I come up with the belief that I have to cater to other people's stories of victimhood and whatnot? Women with daddy issues look to be controlled and look to be submissive. So they look for people that think they're dominant. And we can do a whole podcast on the sub-dom relationship sometime too, but that's where it comes from. Again, you got to delve into, where do these issues come from? And how do I fix it? Men with egos, they look for women who feed those egos, but it may not, and this is the crazy thing, it may not even be about the woman. She's just an appendage to his life, like a car would be, like a nice jacket or a nice suit would be. But that's what men who are stuck on their egos look for, and that's why they never end up with depth in their relationships. One of the reoccurring themes that I've seen in people, men and women, when it comes to moving forward into healthier relationships, is what I like to call the survival habits or the survival mode. When you have been in a traumatic relationship for any extended period of time, you have to learn survival habits in order to get through it. And as painful as those are, you become comfortable. And usually your abuser, your narcissist, or whoever was in your life has trained you to fear things getting worse. And so you accept less than what you really want because you're almost afraid to risk. You go, well, shoot, it could be a lot worse. If I give this up, I'm comfortable here, I'm surviving here, I'm existing here. It's a little painful, but it could be a lot worse. And so, and you try to overthink and you try and guess ahead of what they're doing so that they don't abuse you. Well, that reflects on once you finally get brave enough to leave that kind of relationship, you still exist like that. You still have those survival habits. You're still afraid of, so I dated a woman it was a couple years ago. And one of the things that she said was, because I thought she was fantastic. I thought we were getting along good. And then it was just sabotage, 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 sabotage. And I finally went, okay, cool. You know, take your space and whatnot. And she said her thing was, she goes, I just didn't believe in you. Like I was afraid that if I took the risk and went for something that I thought was great, it would be even bigger disappointment. And that was kind of a revelation to me. One of the reasons why unhealthy women continue to date unhealthy men is because it's not that big of a loss when they have to end the relationship. But if they were to actually go for that healthy relationship and then get rejected, it's even more devastating to them.
I never really thought of it that way, but yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, that one really kind of surprised me. But it's, again, she was comfortable in survival mode. She was comfortable. I know how to deal with this kind of person. I'm kind of going to stick with this person. And it's done when it's been done for so long, it's just so habitual and so characteristic that it feels like it's just, well, this is just who I am. Well, it's really not. It's just you've done it so often that you do it now without even consciously thinking about it.
Definitely.
Delving into your survival habits is huge. And I had to do it after my last marriage. I actually have to delve in and said, okay, I was, in this kind of a relationship for this long. What did I have to do to survive it? How did I protect myself? And how do I let go of those things? And it took me quite a while of working on them, but it was absolutely worth it. And again, one of the things I had to come to a revelation about with myself was the whole white knight idea that I was trying to be, because that's how I was able to be controlled and manipulated and abused. And that was something that stems from my early childhood and the feeling of abandonment and not wanting anyone else to feel the way I had felt as a kid.
And you take all of that baggage into dating and new relationships if you don't hit them head on. And that's something that I had to kind of stop myself after my last broken relationship was, okay, again, I'm the common denominator. There's something going on where I am attracting a certain type of people. And I think it's because that's what I believe I'm comfortable with, but it's not because it's what I really want.
Sure.
But being comfortable is better than the unknown or the risk of going for greater. So I get what you were saying about that for sure. And I had to break that in myself. I had to really decide, what do I want and what do I deserve for me? And then that's what I stayed focused on. But it took me hitting that wall of, there's something broken in me. So before I start dating again, I need to figure out what it is so that I don't keep making the same mistake over and over again.
One of the biggest survival habits that get in the way of growth is most people don't change themselves until they're hurting or until they're hurting enough that they're willing to change themselves. Most people go through life just existing in stagnation or mediocrity until something is devastating, and then they work hard to get out of it. And then once they're comfortable, they just kind of exist again until something bad happens. That is the way most people exist through relationships. And that's always going to keep you at mediocrity. That's the way it's always going to be. If you want something bigger, if you want something better, it's not just, it's the best way I heard it was Mark Cuban that said, it's staying hungry even when you're full. even when you've hit that success and whatnot, instead of just coasting and kind of, running it, think about that in a relationship. You work really hard, you work together, you go through some ups and downs and you work through them, you realize you love this person, you get married, and then you just coast. What I mean? That's what a lot of people do. They just kind of until a breakdown happens. Okay, then we're going to work on the marriage again. We're going to work on the relationship. We're going to date each other. And then things are going really good, really good. Okay, let's just coast. And relationships and love is either growing or shrinking. It never, ever sits stagnant.
Right. I agree with that 100%. And I tell people all the time, if you're in a relationship, if you get married, even like it doesn't stop just because you captured your partner and like you're there forever now, right? They still have a choice, especially these days. So you have to continually work at the relationship. There has to be continued commitment, communication, engagement, and learning of each other.
Yeah, dating each other. Continue dating even after you're married. And
Absolutely.
that goes back to the original story that I talked about when it came to marriage in the beginning of this podcast. And that was your job is to edify that person and help them become the best them that they can be. Now, a good weight trainer, when you're working through something, doesn't grab it and rip the weight off. They just put a couple fingers underneath it and they just lift enough weight to help you. That is our job with our partners. That is the way I view marriage. So kind of a recap on everything that we talked about is the main focus you should have before you even get out there and start dating, before you start making your dating profiles, before you start going out to dinner and the movies or anything else with people, you have to take an honest look at yourself and say, am I actually ready for a serious relationship? Dating is to find a serious relationship. If you're not looking for a serious relationship, nothing wrong with that. Just be honest with yourself and others. Stop trying to date and just go out and have fun and have a social life. Be honest with yourself. You don't have to date. You don't have to date. You don't have to have a significant someone that you talk to every single day. You don't have to have it to be happy. I'm telling you this the truth. It's nice to have eventually when you're ready for it. But recap, look at yourself, delve into who you are. So I've got a few questions that I wrote up. For me, knowing that you're ready is when you're feeling at peace with being alone and you feel zero need to have someone in your life. There's a huge difference between needs and wants. If you feel like you need to have someone in your life, you probably shouldn't have someone in your life right now. If you want
Make a fake pillow like I did, like next to me, where I just made a fake person with pillow.
Yeah, put Gerard Butler's face on it, whatever. Just they can silk screen that nowadays. I've seen those custom pillows. Get that. That's more than enough. They even have them with arms now, so they can be the big spoon if you want them to be.
Yeah.
So here's some questions that you can pose yourself to yourself, kind of to see if you're ready. And these are big ones. So if you got a pen and pencil, write these down. Have you truly recovered from your past losses, from your past traumas? Have you fully recovered? Be honest with yourself about that. Number two, are you willing to be open and honest about your own marketability? We'll get into that kind of in the next episode. And that's about, are you really, and I've got a real funny comparison between sales networking and dating that again, we'll get into. But are you really like high quality for the market? And if not, how do you get yourself there? And you'd be surprised what really makes you marketable. It's not really the money. It's not really the looks. There are so many other things that make you a marketable person when it comes to being in the dating pool. Number three, where do your ideas of a good mate come from and are they healthy? So almost all of us learned our ideas of what a partner should be from our parents. Or at least a significant male or female person that was in our life teaching us that that's what it is. You need to delve into that and be honest. It doesn't mean you can't love them. It doesn't mean you have to hate them if they're not healthy, but be honest about it. Were they healthy? Because if you do what they did, you're going to get what they got. And that's huge. If you don't want what your mom and dad had as a marriage, don't listen to them and don't use them as your example of what a good mate would be. Are you secure enough to accept someone not being interested in you? That's the huge one. If your answer is no, you're not ready to date. If you are still hung up on every single person, again, we're getting into this in the next episode, on trying to close every single deal, that every single person has to be interested in you, you're going to be freaking miserable. So don't even go there. Again, are you secure enough to accept someone not being interested in you? If you are, if it's not that big of a deal to you, you're ready. And lastly, do you still put your happiness on others, or do you take full responsibility for it? So if you still put your happiness on others, you're not ready to date. You're just not ready to date. If you're willing to take full ownership over your happiness, you're ready to date. So if you can answer those questions to yourself and be honest about it, it'll start giving you really a starting point on how to get yourself to where you want to be, to where you can actually finally have that beautiful, peaceful, long-term relationship that really we're all striving for.
Definitely. Absolutely. And I know for me, I mean, I met my boyfriend on online dating. I keep hearing that from so many other people. There's a lot of ways to meet people out there. So if you are ready and you answer yes to those questions, get on a meetup and have some common interests with people. Get online, be careful. And we're going to go over some tips and different things for you in next episodes of this series for you to help you maneuver through that and be safe at the same time. And at the end of it all, don't give up on hope. If you really want to have your future partner long-term, there is hope out there for you. So don't give up and keep working and striving to be the best version of you so that you can attract the best version of somebody else.
Yep. Very true. Love that. Love that. Love that.
Yeah. So is there anything else you want to add today, Eddie?
No, that was really it.
All right.
Learn to be honest with yourself. Again, I always recommend the 4 agreements. When it comes to dating, once you understand the 4 agreements, being able reading the book Mastery of Love, also by Don Miguel, absolutely beautiful on learning to love yourself, and how to be healthy for other people. I love that book. One of my favorite books on love.
I love that. I love love. So
I'll find it one day.
You will when you're ready.
Feel like
when you're ready.
I'm
gonna mom you.
Like Kermit the Frog. Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me.
All right, we're gonna wrap up this episode on that note. I loved that. You did a great impression of Kermit. That was great. All right, everybody, we'll see you on the next episode of the Female Male Perspective. And Eddie, how do they find you?
You can find me. My speaker page is Eddie Cunningham, at Edified Living on Instagram and Facebook. Find me on there, instant message me, and we'll respond.
Awesome. And you can find me at tinavaliant.com for all future workshops, classes, and events, as well as find me on Facebook. Just look up Tina Valiant and I'll be at the top. So we'll see you next time, everybody. Have a great day.
Take care.